All right, Class E or Class Echo airspace. Class E airspace is marked by a shaded magenta lines on aeronautical charts. Everything to the solid side. So when I say shaded, like there's a light side and then it kind of shades darker and darker into a solid side of the line. It kind of, what's the word? Not ombre, but it goes from like transparent to non-transparent. So the transparent, everything to the solid side of the line denotes that the floor of Class E starts at 1,200 feet AGL, while everything to the faint side or that transparent side starts at 700 feet AGL. And we'll show an example so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. If a dashed magenta line is present, so you might also see a skinny dashed magenta line, which I was just talking about, and it would be within a shaded magenta airspace. That denotes that Class E inside that dashed line area extends all the way to the ground. And again, we'll show an example of what this looks like. All right, so here we have, this is that shaded magenta line that I was talking about. And you can see everything inside is on this transparent side, right? So this side right here is transparent. And then on this side and everything out here, that's on the more solid side of the line. And so on that side, everything starts, the Class E starts at 1,200 feet. And then it goes all the way up to 18,000 feet MSL. So everything out here, over here, over here, and over here, that's Class Echo from 1,200 feet AGL all the way to 18,000 feet MSL. Now inside, and we do have a dashed magenta line. So between these two areas here, so if we kind of thread these two concentric circles, everything in this area, that's where Class Echo starts at 700 feet. And then it goes up to 18,000 feet. So again, we're kind of stepping, right? 1,200 feet out here, 700 feet in here. And then inside the dashed area, closer to the airport, everything Class Echo starts at the surface. So inside here, Class Echo starts at the surface and goes all the way 18,000 feet. So let's see a 3D view of what this looks like. So this is the same airport. I've kind of drawn lines. This is the dotted line of the dash line, and then this is the dotted line of the outside of the shaded line. Okay, so we have the surface right inside this dash line here, inside the dash magenta line. And then it goes to 700 feet inside the magenta line, right? So 700 feet and then 1,200 feet. So everything in here, right? And then the next part is 1,200 feet, the next floor, and that's everything out here. Okay, so that's kind of the step again. If an aircraft is coming in, they kind of want it to be in Class Echo they want it to be a little bit controlled around this airport, right? As the Class E is still controlled, it's the least amount of controlled. And then all of it goes all the way up to 18,000 feet. All right, now let's look at an example where it doesn't have that dashed magenta line in the middle. Okay, so there's no dashed magenta line. Let me erase that. But there is that same kind of circle with the shaded magenta line. So in here, we have this area underneath where there's no Class Echo airspace, right? So from the surface to 700 feet, there is no Class Echo airspace. It is nothing, or is it? What is it going to be? We'll get to that in a sec. And then the Class Echo airspace starts at 700 and then goes to 1,200 feet inside this shaded magenta circle. And then everything outside, again, starts at 1,200 and goes up to 1,800 in all this area. And then it probably would, here we have another shaded magenta line. So wherever it would stop, wherever you see another shaded magenta line or something, and then it would change again. But I just kind of drew a circle here and assume that nothing else is out here in this example. All right, so let's talk about minimum weather requirements for VFR flight within a Class E airspace. So they segment this one in between below 10,000 feet MSL and above 10,000 feet MSL. So for when we're below 10,000 feet MSL in Class E airspace, Again, it's 3 statute miles and it's the 152. So 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 feet horizontal distance from clouds. Now, when we're above 10,000 feet MSL, we have a minimum visibility of 5 statute miles. Okay, so we need to be able to see further when we're above 10,000 feet. And then we need to keep more of a distance from clouds. So it goes to that 111. Remember that 111 that I talked about? So we have 5 statute miles and then 1,000 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 1 statute mile horizontal distance from clouds. All right, all aircraft in Class E are required to have an operating radio for two-way communications with ATC when within 4 nautical miles upon entering the airspace if the airspace has an operating control tower. Otherwise, there are no communication or equipment requirements for Class Echo airspace. The minimum pilot certificate is again a student pilot certificate.